I was watching a bunch of 100-year-olds talk about their life, talking about life lessons, and thinking, what are the things that we can learn from them about how to retire, and especially how to retire overseas? The reality is we're all going to retire, whether it's at 35, 65, or 105. And yet, when you watch most people talk about retirement, when I watch those people who are 100 years old in the US, in the UK, talk about how basically they cheated the pension system, as one guy called it, where they keep getting government pension checks. I said, if you're living a nomad capitalist lifestyle, you're not going to be able to rely on some of that. And so I wanted to walk you through not only the process of how you can prepare for retirement while living an international life, while also talking about some of the factors that you're probably not considering that an international life adds to help you get to retirement and stay there longer. And so if it's your first time here, I'm Andrew Henderson, founder of Nomad Capitalist. We help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally reduce their taxes, protect their assets, increase their freedom, and grow their opportunities internationally. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. So the first thing is, what about a pension? Because what I kept hearing people talk about when I watched all these different interviews with folks who reached the ripe old age of 100 was, hey, the government is paying me and I am almost like I'm a drain on the system, right? I worked hard, I paid into this system, and now the government's giving me more checks than they are giving to most people. If you are an expat from your country, and this certainly could change over the years, but generally speaking, you can go back and you can claim your country's Social Security or your country's pension system. It is where, if you're from where I'm from in the United States, you were to renounce your citizenship, that you would still be able to keep your Social Security, but you would often lose many government pensions. So if you're in the military or you were in the military, if you have kind of a local municipal pension, a lot of those will follow the rules where you have to be a US citizen. And so on the pension side, you can keep Social Security. In many other countries where you would never really think about renouncing your citizenship because you can just leave the country and leave the taxes, the regulations, all the stuff aside. There are proposals in some countries. Canada talks about one where it's like, hey, if you come back and you haven't lived here, then why should we give you a pension? Other countries, because they're bankrupt. I saw Warren Buffett talking recently. We happen to disagree on this. He said, I shouldn't be getting Social Security. I said, here's a guy who paid a fortune in taxes. Why doesn't he get Social Security? We shouldn't means test it out. And yet that's becoming popular, where some countries will say, oh, you've got plenty of money. You're not going to get your Social Security check. But so long as countries don't penalize expats, you will still be able to get that check. Now, the question will be, will they send it to you overseas? The U.S. Social Security Administration does not penalize Americans or even former Americans who live overseas. They've got a small list of countries where they don't want to send the money. But generally speaking, you can get money no matter where you live in the world from your Social Security check. Again, other countries may make that more difficult. And certainly, if you're not living in and paying taxes in a country, then you're not going to get paid. And so if you're an expat from the United States and you're taking advantage of the foreign earned income exclusion and you work for a foreign corporation, whether it's one that you own or whether it's one that someone else owns, you are not going to be paying into Social Security and Medicare in many cases, which means they're not going to be counting the money that you're not paying in towards paying you, right? And so if your country has a program where there's some loose connection to what you pay in being what you get out, then obviously the less you pay in because you didn't live in your country and you weren't paying taxes there over the years. And by the way, as we always say, yes, Americans can live overseas and dramatically reduce, if not eliminate, their tax bill, including on the Social Security side, then obviously there's going to be less paid in. As a former U.S. citizen, I am still entitled, and I get the email once a year, to about $1,100 a month at whatever retirement age, or I'm sure that'll change over time. But that is because I lived in the U.S. for some number of years, and then I moved outside of the United States. And so that generally will work, but that could change over the course of years. The question is, do you need $1,100 a month? And so if you're living overseas and you're taking advantage of tax savings in other countries because you didn't move to France or something, then certainly you could put your money into an annuity, a fixed annuity even, and probably come out better than you would come out getting the actual pension system. I talked to a guy who's 55. He lived in the United States. He said, you can keep all the money, never pay me a dime for my Social Security if you just let me stop paying now. Just let me stop paying today, and what I'll save in the next 10 or 15 years before I retire, I'll gladly give up everything I've given you up until then. So that's a pretty clear example of how if you're saving money on taxes, or even if you're just saving money on cost of living, even some high-tax countries in Europe, like Spain, for example, much lower cost of living than you'd have in the United States, and so you can take that extra money and put that towards any kind of annuity or more aggressive savings plan to basically be your own pension in case your government changes its policy. Certainly the U.S. could change the rules in the next 30 years before I'm eligible for Social Security and say, hey, if you're one of those nasty, dirty traitors who left our country, you're not getting any money. Or if you can't certify that you have less than this amount of money, we're not paying you. And again, if you're not American, they could come after you and say, we don't like people who didn't live here and pay into the system. But otherwise, you're cool. So that's pensions. On the healthcare side, people wonder about healthcare because if you get to 100, you're going to have some issues. And so Medicare, for example, again, in the United States, is available to U.S. residents. And so people will leave the U.S. and then they'll later come back, but you need to be a U.S. resident to get access to Medicare. And so if you're living overseas full time, it's not going to cover you. If you renounce your citizenship, it's probably going to be rather difficult for most people to come back and once again become a U.S. resident, so you're writing off Medicare. So whatever I paid into Medicare, forget it at this point. Again, can you get cheaper health care overseas? I am increasingly watching something that I'm sure people who are 100 don't entirely realize because they're thinking about a country that existed many years ago. If you look at the UK, for example, I talked to more people from the UK where they said the NHS has let them down, it's long wait times, and they just say, listen, I go and get health care in Latin America, in the Gulf, in Southeast Asia, I get better quality care, they take more care of me, and I pay out of pocket a couple $1,000s what I would have waited for a year for in the UK. And so a lot of countries in the West where you may be leaving that provide free health care, whether it's for everybody or whether it's for only retirees. I mean, look at the Medicare supplement, for example. Look what you have to pay in addition if you want any kind of decent Medicare. You're going to be better off putting that money into either an insurance policy in one country where you're living overseas. If you're somewhat nomadic or living in different countries, you either get different health insurance policies or you can get an international policy. And or you can simply pay out of pocket. It certainly becomes riskier when you get to be retirement age, certainly up to 100. I mean, you probably want to have some policy. But if you've saved money all your life by living overseas, lower cost of living, lower taxes, set some of that aside in a growth portfolio to be able to pay for your healthcare costs. I don't think I've ever used or claimed benefits under the health insurance that I'm required to have in one or two countries to maintain my residence. Even though I could, it's just not worth it because the cost of care is so low. But if you are worried about that health care, certainly if you're an American, you could go back and take advantage of the Medicare system. Again, you're seeing other countries that may say, well, hey, if you didn't live here for all these years, why should we pay for you? And you could make an argument that if you weren't paying taxes, maybe you shouldn't get it. But I think that generally speaking, you're probably going to get better health care overseas. And it's going to be cheaper than if you're paying into these higher premiums, whether it's a Medicare supplement or whether it's some other, if you're paying taxes, for example, as a retiree, you can put that money to use somewhere else. And so those are the two things people ask about in how do you retire overseas. I think that when you move overseas and you live the nomad capitalist lifestyle, you're definitely assuming more responsibility for yourself. And so when I watch the folks who are 100 years old, I mean, many of them served in World War II, for example. There's a tremendous bravery there that I think is a culture that no longer exists in those countries. And so I watch these people and I have a lot of admiration for them. I don't know that that's what's happening in their countries these days. And so in the same way that the culture has changed, the country has changed, the people have changed to some extent, so is the way that you need to deal with this. You're taking control of your own life if you become a nomad capitalist. I'm not waiting for Social Security to send me a check. I will make sure I'm taken care of. And if I'm not, then I guess that's my problem. If you don't like that approach of having to find health insurance on the open market, in a country that you choose to live in, or again, multiple countries. If you don't like the approach of having to take more responsibility for your own retirement, even if you may get a check from your government, then this may not be for you. Right? I mean, certainly I think what's going to happen in Western countries as they become more and more bankrupt is they're going to find ways to cut people who are not politically expedient out of the system. And so if you lived overseas for 20 years and you weren't paying into Social Security, that's probably an easy person to whack. I've got a friend who moved back to the United States in his 50s after 25 years living overseas. That's 25 years he wasn't paying into the system. Are they going to cut him out? I don't know. Maybe if he's been back there for a certain number of years, they'll say that's okay. But for someone who just comes back for a year and they start getting benefits, people aren't going to like that because the system is broke. If the government's paying for health care, they're broke. If the government's paying pensions, they're broke. They don't have the money for it. And so I think anybody who has too much money or didn't live in the country or any number of other factors is probably going to be cut off. And so if you do this, you've got to assume there may be some risk where even though today you can get your Social Security, at my age in the next 30 years, are they going to just say, hey, Andrew doesn't get Social Security? Maybe they will. But I also look at what are the things that, again, these 100-year-olds grew up with that have dramatically changed today. One of the things is the food quality. I saw one of the 100-year-olds talking about it, just having healthy food they grew in their garden. Certainly people are getting back to that in some regards, but look at the United States. The food quality is terrible. And if you look at why so many Americans are obese, which is why they don't live as long, and they're not cheating the pension system out of money, it's because the food quality is just terrible. You take the same American, even if they eat too much and put them in some other country where the food is less processed, the ingredients are healthier. I mean, eat a tomato in many parts of Europe versus in the United States. You can't tell the difference. It's not a tomato in the United States. And so if you put someone out of an unhealthy environment into a healthy environment, that's probably going to increase their life expectancy or certainly their quality of life. All right. And so the quality of food that maybe used to exist in some of these countries that used to be more organic, when you talk to a 100-year-old, doesn't happen today for a 30-year-old. And so if you want a better chance of getting to 100, you'll want safe food. One of the other things I talk to families about, nobody opens the back door and lets their kids play anymore. I did a little bit of that, and I was probably already kind of going into style when I was a kid. But yet I go to places around the world, again, Eastern Europe, where people are just in small societies, and people are always going out and playing. They're going out and just experiencing life, and I would imagine that has some kind of impact on longevity and happiness and everything. You also see women and guys too who are living in villages. They make their own wine, they make their own rakia, they make their own liquor or whatever, and they're just having a shot of their own wine every day. They're having a drink of their own wine every day. They're living longer. Why? Because it's a much more organic life. And so I choose to live in cities, and the stress of running a business, maybe I'll be dead by 42, who knows? But certainly the idea of intentionally living somewhere else where you can create a more ideal, healthy lifestyle is going to help you get to 100 more easily. And I think it's something that when you live in lower cost, lower tax places, you're going to be more prepared to deal with your health care. We hear stories all the time. People go to the hospital in Latin America, it costs them $100 and they get great quality care. I have the same experience in Asia. Parts of Eastern Europe, same thing. The care is just as good in many places. We're not talking about moving to Laos. We're not talking about moving to Tajikistan, but places that normal people live in. Extreme poverty has practically been wiped out in the world. And so that's something that else these 100-year-olds haven't seen. They grew up in a time when 60% of the world lived in extreme poverty. Now it's 10. And so if you avoid the places where there still is a lot of that extreme poverty, which is not that many places, you can have much better quality care. And so the issues of, am I going to be able to, maximize my pension savings in my country? Am I going to be able to get, healthcare from my country become less and less relevant? So in a way, I love the advice of the 100-year-olds, but I also realize that the world's changed dramatically, and you need to look at how you can take better care of yourself, because we've seen in the last couple of years the government's not going to do it. Take control of extending your longevity by making more intentional choices about where you live. Take the money you save by moving overseas to take care of yourself and your pensions and your health care, because your government's probably not going to be there to support it. And so as much as it's nostalgic and wistful to watch 100-year-olds talk about how well they've been treated by their country, I doubt that when we're 100, it's going to be the same story.